Mark 30. Mark 15. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Hey, good Tuesday to you, Illinois. This is RFD Today. I'm DeLoss Yonke. Thanks for joining us for this adventure in broadcasting on the 21st of May. 10 days to go in May, and in Illinois, still 3/4 of the state's corn crop and 90% of the soybean crop to be planted. We'll talk agronomy later in the program. We'll also get an update on what's going on down in southwest Illinois with Illinois Farm Bureau President Rich Giebert. He'll join us for the first couple of segments. Also on the program, we'll talk agronomy. Our own Jim Taylor, based in Aledo, visited with the local farmer Chad Bell. And yesterday, I was in a cab in the just west of McLean County, just into Tazewell County, just north of Logan County, and visited with a farmer as well to discuss what has been going on. At the time I got in the cab, we were already, or he was already, Ryan Zimmerman from the Morton area was already at more than 330 acres planted, and still had plenty more to go by the time I jumped out of the cab. So We'll talk about a whole bunch of things in today's program, and we'll also talk weather with Dan Hicks. Quite concerning. National Weather Service in Lincoln says a line of strong to severe thunderstorms is expected to move across central Illinois this evening and tonight. Also, National Weather Service in St. Louis is also calling for severe thunderstorms this afternoon and evening later as that moves its way into Illinois. So plenty to discuss there, and all kinds of events. In Colorado, I saw a tornado, I saw snow, I saw a severe thunderstorm, and saw flooding concerns. All in the same few updates. So plenty to talk about today. First, Rita joins us with a note from the folks at Pioneer.
Welcome back to RFD Today. We're talking with Joe Walker, who is a Pioneer field agronomist, and we're talking in a mid-May 2019. Joe, as we talk, actually, you're getting ready to scout a wheat field in Moultrie County. What are you looking for?
Head scab. Actually, more so looking for the timing to spray the wheat with a fungicide to prevent wheat head scab.
About where are we in the growth stage on that wheat?
Well, what I'm looking for specifically is 75% of the heads on the main stem to be emerged, and then 75% to 100% emerged, and then that's when we pull the trigger on the fungicide application. The challenging part this year is most of the wheat fields that I've looked at aren't real even, so it's somewhat of a challenge deciding what is 75 to 100% of the field.
It's interesting because we knew, even though we're all focused on the corn and soybeans, the wet fields and prevented plants, with all that rain comes a lot of concern for that wheat.
Absolutely. As I said earlier, I'm not actually scouting for the disease. We just know that we have a high probability this year with the humidity, the rain and then the humidity that we're going to have. So we're preempting the process, if you will, and planning a fungicide application on these wheat fields to prevent the scab. Question, but it's a quality question, too.
So you're in Moultrie. How many counties do you serve?
My territory is Moultrie, Shelby, Macon, Christian, a little bit in Sangamon, and a little bit in Logan.
Just one quick note here on this Tuesday conversation. what kind of activity did you see Monday throughout that geography?
As far as field work?
Yeah, as far as over on the corn and soybeans, yeah.
Everything. I've been to bean fields, corn fields today that are planted, that are some that are getting planted. There's herbicide applications, dry fertilizer going out. Literally everything is going on in that territory right now.
So hope then on the 20th of May.
Yes, but I think it's time that we probably need to go to another audible, and in most cases this will be our third or fourth one this year. My standard recommendation at this point is to park the anhydrous equipment and plant corn when it's fit, and then address the nitrogen situation later in the year. The one caution I have, though, if we're going to side dress all our nitrogen, we need to have a surface application of urea 28, 32, maybe if you're putting on a large application of DAP in the spring, that would suffice. But we need about 25 pounds of nitrogen to get the corn plant, once it comes off the seed, to get it from 3-leaf to 6-leaf. And, thinking that we'll do our side dress application somewhere around 6-leaf.
Joe Walker, Pioneer Field Agronomist, will continue this conversation with Joe later this week here on RFD Today.
Welcome back to RFD Today on a Tuesday. I'm DeLoss Yankee with the Illinois Farm Bureau President, Rich Giebert.
Good morning, Loss.
How are you?
Fine. Okay. Pretty good humor today compared to last week or 2 weeks ago when we were drowning. We had 2 good days in the field yesterday and Sunday afternoon. So, no, we're in better humor, but we got rain overnight, but so it'll give us a chance to catch our breath.
You were playing beat the clock because you knew a next round of rain was coming in, I assume.
Yeah, it started raining about 1 o'clock this morning back home.
Okay. So you probably drove up then
late last night.
Did you see anything?
I saw headlights here and there, probably more south of here, Lincoln, Springfield, down to Litchfield. A lot of tractors running.
How far along would you say you are on the farm? Are you even half or? No,
probably 20%. We just started planting corn Sunday afternoon.
Wow. Okay, 20% as of May 20, as of Monday. So, at what point? I mean, do you still even have conversations, or especially if it's going to keep raining over this week? At what point do you talk about first of all varieties or even a shift?
Well, down on our river bottom farms, we're already shifted that to beans. There's a lot of water over. The river's coming back up another foot, probably by Friday or Saturday. I don't recall which. But we're staying holding the course. We have drying facilities so we can still dry our 118-day corn, and that's the first corn that went in the ground yesterday afternoon.
Do you have any wheat this year?
No, we first time in about 25 years that we didn't get any wheat sowed this year, so a little bit more to get done this spring.
Okay. Was that partly weather conditions?
It was weather conditions last fall. Yeah. We chose to go after get the beans cut rather than plant wheat.
Those that have it, though,
they've had a tough time.
This has disease written all over it, scab and all. I mean, the conditions are not setting up well for it.
Yeah, and the helicopters have really been flying because, the ground equipment couldn't get in and get the Fusario on and other products and fungicides. And no, it's been a tough spring for everybody.
Do you talk with your country agent now about plant possibilities?
No, not yet.
Or?
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay. We have a couple of weeks to talk about it.
Yeah, we got a couple of weeks.
All right. Well, hopefully, and there could easily be a system, too, where even more June 5, someone makes the call, and then it dries in 3 days, and you call back and say, I planted my corn anyway, so.
Yeah, and, even after June 5th, it's I don't recall what the discounts are, but it's on a per-day basis, so we'll live with it. We've done that before, particularly with soybeans.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, this will be an interesting. So the board is in. You're here. The board is in. And normally, I would think in May, you'd want to I assume you still want to just get things done, but I don't know if anyone wants to hurry home if it's to look at it being too wet to do anything.
Well, it kind of keeps you occupied with board. We pulled the board last week, and as I looked at the weather forecast And it lived up to its expectations. Got rain overnight pretty much across the state, whether it's light rain or not. But the board chose to come in with the issues that we got in front of us to talk about and decisions to be made, positions to take. They decided to come in for 2 days, which is great.
Yeah, there's still just a few days left now in the state's legislative session.
And there's a lot of ground to plow, you might say.
Yeah.
And, I appreciate our board. They are committed and dedicated to resolve and to work on the issues that we got in front of us.
So one of those would be still the House needs to vote on the proposals for income tax structure and its potential changes.
Right. And I saw last night that I think it did pass out of, I don't recall what committee, of progressive tax, 9-6 vote. So it is going to move forward. So we'll have a conversation about that day and an action plan going forward with our membership on how to work on opposing this and voicing your opinions in the House to our House representatives.
Yeah, there's been a red banner at ilfb.org with a phone number to call about that very thing. And
then you got the motor fuel tax increases, our capital plan, I guess, what the governor rolled out last week. So we'll have a conversation about that as well. There's a whole host of issues to us. And a budget.
And a budget and a capital plan.
Yep.
Wow. One of the things I remember last year from annual meetings, the policy change from supporting a 10-cent increase to a moderate increase. And so it's up to the guys down, men and women, to determine what is moderate and what's not. So that's an interesting thing to study this year.
Yeah, and as conservative as farmers are, and you look at the economy where we are today, particularly on the farm, moderate might not be what the governor may call moderate as well. Mm-hmm. So there's a differing of opinion. So we'll just have to see. And raising the registration fees and license fees and all that goes with it. So I think they're looking at, $2.9 billion to be raised with this increase.
The Illinois Farm Bureau President Rich Giebert will talk some federal issues next on RFD Today.
Farm Week and FarmWeekNow.com journalist Daniel Grant connects rural routes for you. With more than 2 decades of reporting under his belt, Dan is the go-to source for farmers when it comes to commodities. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
I grew up on a grain and livestock farm near Roseville in Warren County. What I love about my job is working with people, traveling across Illinois, and visiting farms along the way.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Spring is here and things are buzzing. Farmers and pollinators are working together to help feed us. In fact, 1 out of every 3 bites of food we eat exists because of bees, butterflies, birds, bats, and other insects. Pollinators are important to our food system and the ecosystem overall. That's why farmers and those in the agricultural industry are working together to protect pollinators through education, research, and conservation efforts. Visit ilagformonarchs.org to join the buzz. That's ilagformonarchs.org.
Are you preparing for planting season? We don't mean to be a pest, but here's a few things you need to know before you grow. The Illinois Department of Agriculture now requires special local needs labels, including new restrictions for the use of herbicide dicamba on top of soybeans in Illinois for the 2019 growing season. Did you know these additional restrictions go beyond federally approved labels? Remember, the label is the law. To find out more about these Illinois-specific labels, visit ilfb.org/label-aware.
It can begin with an email, a phone call, a flyer in the mail, or perhaps a misleading website. Loan modification scams. They come in all shapes and sizes and under different names. Loan rescue firms, counseling services, mortgage consultants, sometimes posing as a legitimate mortgage company willing to help you modify your loan and get caught up with your payments. But beware, these are highly trained con artists looking to steal your home. They often know who you are, where you live, and because it's public record, know if you are on the brink of foreclosure. You're not alone, however. The National Crime Prevention Council and U.S. Department of Justice have partnered to help homeowners identify and steer clear of these scam artists.
McGruff the Crime Dog here. Protect your home and safeguard your finances. It only takes a little time to become informed. Start by finding a free legitimate housing counselor today.
Take the first step. Visit www.ncpc.org/mortgage fraud. That's ncpc.org/mortgage fraud. This message is from the National Crime Prevention Council and U.S. Department of Justice.
A lot can happen in 6 seconds. A rodeo ride, a dramatic basketball win, and the world record holder can solve a Rubik's Cube. 6 seconds is how long it takes for an 18-wheeler traveling at a safe speed to come to a complete stop. And in those 6 seconds, that truck will travel the length of 2 football fields. So please, give them room. Never cut in front of a large truck for any reason. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Welcome back to RFD today on Tuesday. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Rich Giebert, Illinois Farm Bureau President, joining us in studio. And so we have some state issues and, interesting Friday, all of a sudden, some federal news where, USMCA, for example, has just been sitting there and we're hoping something could move. And then all of a sudden, something moved on Friday.
Absolutely. You looked at the week before where the talks with Chinese have fell apart and everybody had a lot of doom and gloom on their face. And then last Friday, where the president lifted the tariffs, 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum with Canada and Mexico. Really, it was a great day for agriculture. We saw a rebound in the markets, which is just tremendous. We've needed that to get something done. I hope it keeps going forward. And then we saw where there was some conversation with the Japanese, the lifting of the tariffs and them purchasing more beef and allowing more American beef into their marketplace. And then looking forward to this weekend with President Trump and the Japanese Prime Minister to sit down and have conversations with Lighthizer as well on a way forward with a bilateral agreement. Hopefully something can happen sooner than later. We've talked about this a lot, the loss. We need some quick wins, some short wins, and I think we're getting some of that right now. I just hope there's more to the story.
Yeah, keep moving. The thing about USMCA, so it still needs to be ratified. And we knew that holdup, this is when you're in that sales meeting and you give the objection and then is that really the objection or is there another one or is there another layer of them? Because now we've removed that one. So let's see if that actually leads to something going on in the chambers.
Well, and I was on a conference call last Friday morning, several conference calls, but one with the AFBF Trade Advisory Committee, and there's a lot of sad faces there, you might say, that really didn't see a way forward, and then right after lunch, then everything started to break on the 232s. We really need now is to work with our congressmen and women is to get this on their plate, visit with Speaker Pelosi that she gets this on the docket, listen to Vice President Pence last night saying that they hope that they can get this to the floor sometime here this summer before they break for the August recess, and let's get this thing passed and move forward.
Yeah. If you're ever doing one of those where you're listen only, whether that's with AFBF or, whoever, are you able to do that at all from the tractor?
Yes.
If you're listen only, so you're muted, so you can't.
You better make sure you're muted.
Yeah. Because if you're going full throttle, you don't want that to come acroff the phone. But if you're muted,
those green cabs are pretty quiet, but they're not that quiet.
Yeah, I would think. But I mean, you've got a balanced time in there, but you're also paying attention to what's going on. So that was with USMCA, and then with the deal with Japan and beef.
Great.
That dates to 2003. That the whole BSE case 15 years ago. We're still trying to get open markets in some of our.
I remember that day in December in 2003.
Yeah.
Not a good day.
Yeah.
Philip and I were just elected.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was not a good day.
Yeah, that was a tough Christmas for a lot of folks. Okay, so those are a couple of issues. Those are things that we know that have happened. There's also been talk, and it could be this week, there's talk in D.C. about another round of mitigation for farmers. So I assume you don't have any inside scoop, but they made it sound like it was going to be pretty swift.
Well, and it did sound like that, and that was part of the conversation last Friday with the AFBF Trade Advisory Committee, is to make sure that all the different areas in agriculture are covered or at least talked about. So we'll just have to see what happens going forward. We did talk about that it needs to be more than what's impacted from China. There's a whole host of things going on, whether it was Canada, Mexico, with Japan, the EU, whole host of different products across agriculture that are being impacted at this point in time. Dairy industry, pork producers, we've seen some rebound in some sectors of agriculture, but not across the board. So while it doesn't really make us whole, it does help us to keep our bills paid and give us a little hope and light at the end of the tunnel.
The formula will be interesting this year if we're talking about it in May also. If it's same as last time, it could impact what gets planted.
Yeah, one comment that Zippy had made in his conversations with the Secretary is that they've learned from the last trade mitigation payments, and they want to see how it could be more fair and balanced across. And what I mean is, it was all based off the 2018 crop. They may look at a farm average or a 3-year past average or something like that, particularly with what we're facing here with the flood issues across the Midwest and the Deep South.
Well, it's interesting. Last year is around state fair time.
Yeah.
Now it's not even county fair time. So I find that interesting. But
well, I do applaud them for recognizing how tough it is out here in agriculture, and that agriculture has really been impacted.
Mm-hmm. Well, I assume you have hills and windy roads down where you are, so
yeah, just a few.
Safety, and I'm sure you hear something in your head from generations before, and you're passing that along about the whole message of safety this time of year.
Absolutely, you just got to be safe, take breaks. As urgent as we want to get this crop in the ground, it doesn't hurt to get out every hour, a couple hours, stretch your legs, walk around the equipment, make sure everything's functional, and then get back in the cab and move on.
All right. Well, best wishes for a safe and complete planting season.
Thank you, Delos.
Hope sooner rather than later as well. Rich Giebert, Illinois Farm Bureau. We'll have more to come on RFD today. Coming up in just a minute, we will visit with, Jim Taylor from our affiliate in Aledo. We'll visit with Chad Bell, young farmer up there. And then later, Ryan Zimmerman. I got to ride in the cab with him yesterday to see how things are going. Stay tuned. This is RFD Today.
More farm news and information ahead. Stay tuned for more RFD Today here on the Illinois Farm Bureau Radio Network.
RFD Radio Network's DeLoss Yankee connects rural routes for you. DeLoss delivers essential farm and food-related news to our listeners. His witty voice has been heard on the air for more than 2 decades. Here's a bit about his rural roots.
Growing up on a farm prepared me for my career. I try to know a little about a lot of things and let the people I interview be the experts. I've always wanted to be on the radio. I'm just happy to do what I enjoy.
Be it routes or roots, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
The Illinois economy runs on our homegrown agricultural products. Our dairy, beef, pork, corn, and soybeans grow the agricultural industry by nearly $20 billion each year. But we don't just grow Illinois, we grow North America. Canada and Mexico account for over $45 billion in U.S. agricultural exports, and they support more than 1 million American jobs. Exports to Canada and Mexico matter to everyone in the agriculture and food industries.
A message from Illinois farmers and their checkoff programs.
Attention, Illinois farmers. You won't want to miss this field day at SIU Carbondale University Farms. It's your chance to hear from industry experts about ongoing research and how it will benefit your farm. Join us on June 26th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. with free lunch included. This is a joint effort of the SIU College of Agricultural Sciences, Illinois Nutrient Research and Education Council, and Illinois Farm Bureau. You must pre-register at IllinoisNREC.org and click on upcoming events.
As you prepare for planting season, remember your neighbors. Whether you're an applicator, grower, or beekeeper, use FieldWatch to register your farm and monitor for sensitive sites around you. FieldWatch is a free, easy-to-use online mapping tool. Consulting FieldWatch is now a requirement for the over-the-top used dicamba products. Communicating with your neighbors will help you protect your farm and the environment. Don't wait. Go online to fieldwatch.com. Growing agriculture. We grow best together.
All Ag.
All Illinois.
All Now.
There are a lot of smartphone apps out there, but do they have what's important to us here in Illinois? The Farm Week Now app does, and it's always at your fingertips. All Ag, all Illinois, and 24/7 where and when you need it for free. Go to your app or Play Store on your smartphone, hit search, type in Farm Week Now, that's one word, and download it today. Brought to you by Illinois Farm Bureau, where we're all about farm, family, and food.
What's the excitement about buying a brand new car when you pay full price for it? County Farm Bureau members have a reason to be excited. A Farm Bureau membership gives you 2 car purchase discounts. When members buy a new Ford vehicle, they receive $500 off their purchase. And with the purchase of a qualifying Lincoln vehicle, they receive $750 off. Everyone loves a good deal, and the money saved is worth the price of our annual membership. This is just one of our 300,000 plus discounts that are always changing to fit our members' needs. Not a Farm Bureau member? Visit Illinois Farm Bureau online and join today.
Welcome back to RFD today on a Tuesday. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Turn it over now to Jim Taylor, our affiliate WRMJ in Aledo. You hear him, well, hopefully you hear him on RFD Illinois when he gives the early morning and overnight markets.
Talking with local producer Chad Bell. I think you said a week after April you had a good run of planting, and then I think one day last week. And that's been about it. So I guess it's been a struggle bus. Can you kind of describe what's been going on in terms of trying to get this 2019 crop finished?
Well, it's definitely been a struggle. Had 3.5 days in that week after Easter. Thought we were going to get that whole week of nice weather, and that 5 to 6 days we can get both corn and beans all the way in the ground, but that didn't work out that week, and of course all the rain since then, and only one day last week, and that was in marginal conditions at best, and so there's going to be quite a bit of time to let these fields dry out before we're going to be able to get back in the field, and at this point it's anyone's guess when that might be.
And I think you told me off the air that you had 2/3 of your corn crop in, I think 75% of your bean crop in. But what about replanting with all the rain we've had? Have you been able to kind of evaluate that situation yet?
I've evaluated several fields, and some of those are areas that I can barely even get over with the four-wheeler, and that's been the case since that weekend after Easter, and so I know those areas will be replant just because they've been saturated since day one, basically, and that's a good portion of our acres, I believe. And as far as replant goes, I know we'll have to replant that, but it's just a matter of if we will get a chance to do that and when that will be. I know there will definitely be some decisions that have to be made if that time comes, and we'll definitely have to probably shorten our corn maturity if we are able to get back into the field.
In terms of the forecast this week, you get a dry Monday and a dry Wednesday, and then rain virtually the rest of the days of the week. That's kind of been the rule and not the exception here this spring, hasn't it, where you get this false sense of security, but it's just maybe one day, and then the next day rain, next day dry, next day rain. So it has been kind of the perfect storm in terms of producers trying to get this crop in the ground.
Yeah, it's been a struggle for everyone, and it really started last fall with a late harvest and very little field work done last fall for many producers, and it just kind of spilled over here to the spring, and a lot of catch-up work that needed to be done. And then some people were looking at the forecast and decided not to plant that week after Easter, and right or wrong, their seed's still in the bag. And I'm almost wishing that I was in that camp with some some more of my seed in the bag yet, but it went in. What I got put in went into the ground really nice, and emergence just hasn't been very good in some of those areas that have been wet, and it's been a struggle for everyone.
And then in terms of, the cover crop practices you utilize, how has that impacted, if at all, anything this spring?
Well, I haven't seen a whole lot of direct impact yet. I do have some cover crops still growing on a couple corn fields that are going to corn and some fields going to beans. And so it'll be interesting to see how that all plays out. I'm getting a little bit nervous, especially on the couple fields I have going to corn, because the cover crop's starting to get some size to it, and it could possibly interfere with some planting when that happens. And it'll just be an interesting experience, and one that I'll be able to learn from and use that for future years. But I might be attending the School of Hard Knocks here this spring. It's just got to wait and see how it all plays out.
Well, and I know when they say, I think they use the terminology in baseball that probably can be applied to farming, and it's basically, if you watch this game long enough, you see everything. Is that true with farming here in 2019, I guess?
Yeah, we've seen a lot here this spring. We've seen wet, we've seen cold, we've seen a few days of warm, a few days of sun, kind of the whole basket of everything. And every year is obviously different than the next one, and this is just one of those that no matter what we do, we can't win, and we just gotta be patient and work with Mother Nature and work with what she gives us.
Chad Bell in Mercer County visiting with our own Jim Taylor about planting season, and he's much farther along. If you remember Monday when we were talking with our Farm Week crop watcher in Iroquois County, Ron Hass had not turned a wheel yet in terms of planting progress. He was hoping to yesterday, but as of the time we visited, had no planting progress to date. So yesterday, when I was west of our broadcast studio, saw a lot of tractors getting after it, both field work and planting. Got to ride along with Ryan Zimmerman in the edge of Tazewell County, close to Logan County. We'll have that conversation next, and then we'll talk weather. I don't know if we want to talk weather, but we'll talk about it anyway with Dan Hicks on a Tuesday, RFD Today.
RFD Radio Network's Jim Taylor connects rural routes for you. You can trust Jim every morning for your overnight markets. He gets up early to help keep farmers on top of their game. Here's a bit about his rural routes.
I have the opportunity to cover something different every day and provide listeners with up-to-date markets, news they need to do their job and be successful, from legislative issues to crop updates and weather, of course.
Be it routes or routes, RFD Radio, FarmWeekNow.com, and Farm Week keep you connected.
Does the warmer weather have you itching for a weekend getaway? Take your Illinois Farm Bureau membership savings with you.
Farm Bureau members can save up to 20% at choice hotels, including favorites like Comfort Suites, Sleep Inn, Quality Inn and Suites, with even more to choose from.
Call 800-258-2847 or visit the Choice Hotels website to search all the hotels at once and to make advance reservations.
Contact your local County Farm Bureau for your discount code number.
Let's check the markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Up 7 to 9 for corn, up a dozen for soybeans and wheat at the moment. July corn up 9, $3.98. September up 9, $4.05 3/4. December up 7 1/4, $4.11 3/4. We were higher on the open, but we have gained more ground since then. July soybeans up 12 1/2, $8.44 1/4. August up 12 1/4, $8.50 3/4. November up 12 1/2, $8.70 1/4. December corn is a fraction off the high. November soybeans are 1/2 cent off the day's high. July wheat up 12.5, $4.90 3/4. June hogs down another $1.37 though, 90.37. June cattle down 22, 111.12. August feeders down 97 cents. The Lost Yankee RFD Radio Network. We're in the cab right now with Ryan Zimmerman, fifth-generation family farmer. We're north of Hopedale, so we're just east of 155, just north of 136, close to Shiloh, but you have to be a local to know where Shiloh is. So you've been hitting it hard here, so May 20. How many days have you actually been able to, really plant corn this year?
So we probably have only been able to go about 4 days, really. And that's been off and on with showers in between, so probably 4.
So today's probably the most productive day?
So far, yeah.
And now you got to sit here with me for a few minutes while you could be going. What has that meant for you for prep, any kind of field work that you would have preferred to do? If you weren't planting, you probably weren't doing a whole lot of field work either.
So we didn't get any fall applied anhydrous on. We usually do a strip till program. So we did make a few adjustments for that. We initially started doing some tillage with a field cultivator. And because of the conditions this year, we found that we were putting a layer in, so we decided to stop with that, and we went with the straight no-till program now. So we did make a change there. And then before we could even get in the field and plant, we tinker with stuff, or we were doing some waterway reworking, fixing some erosion problems that everybody has out there. So we were keeping busy.
That's one thing that couldn't put on in the fall and couldn't put on in the spring as well either. Usually you can make up for it one season or another, but this time you got zapped on both sides.
Right, yeah. It hurt us bad last fall. So we kind of make preparations for doing it in the spring, and then it just drug out, and we kind of got stuck. So we went with Plan C.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we're also 2 weeks to prevent plant, but are you at this point thinking, well, let's see what we can get in, and we've got a little bit of time to worry about that still?
Yeah, so doing some math, you can get close, but I feel like the potential is still there for the corn. With the genetics that we have, we can still make a profit by planting now. So between showers and pushing conditions like we are this year, I think we need to try and get the corn in the ground before that date.
And at the same time, getting into late May, have you made any kind of changes? Are you still going full season, or is there a point when that might switch?
Yeah, so about May 25th is the date where I would consider shortening some of my my hybrids. So at this point, no, I have not made any changes, and I hope I don't have to. So I'm sticking with my initial plan.
Did you have to change strategy at all of what fields you wanted to hit? Do you have any bottom ground that you just wonder, is that ever going to dry out in time?
We do have some bottom ground, and most of the time that under a year like this, it's going to be kind of a lost cause. So, but yes, we have made some adjustments. It's kind of a pick and choose which field you can go to and get through and do a halfway decent job. Mm-hmm. So it has been a little bit more difficult as far as the logistics plan. Mm-hmm. It's been different this year.
Well, we know every year is different, but being a generational farmer, does Dad or anybody talk about, does this compare to anything? I don't even think it compares to 13. Is there a year that people talk about what this might be like?
So my dad has said a couple things. I don't remember the exact year, but it was sometime in the 70s. He said he had something similar to this. And he said a while ago that we're going to be planting in June. So he was prepared, and he made, he used his experience and was able to implement that this year. So I was grateful for that.
Well, you don't panic. That compaction or getting stuck or anything like that, those kind of things will harm you for a long time, so you just got to roll with it.
That's right. You just work with what you can do and take your time, be safe and diligent, and things will get done.
All right. So now you're wearing a Wiffles sweatshirt. It's a Wiffles variety, at least one Wiffles variety in the planter. So what is it that you've liked about the product?
So as a dealer, AG Seeds, Nick Ullman and myself, we sell Whiffles and Golden Harvest. We plant Whiffles for the genetics. We've had great success with yield and with standability, and we've just had a great opportunity with them, and being a family-run company, it's easy to go and talk to and say, we have this issue with this customer. What can we do? And you can run that up the chain very easily and get that problem resolved. So
standability, boy, you got to get it right first time this year. So hopefully, standability sounds like it would be a huge issue in a wet spring.
Yeah, and especially this year. So we're planting late, so we're expecting it to be warmer. So you expect the corn to grow faster. We're going to have higher or taller corn, higher ear placement. Making sure that we don't necessarily have to push those populations up and maybe backing them down just a fuzz, just to make sure that stalk isn't going to be spindly. So,
did you have to adjust populations at all? Did you consider that as you were going into a wet field?
I did. So I kind of pushed those populations a little bit. I'm usually up in the 36,000 range. I have backed down a little bit this year, and partly because of the excessive height that we could get and the ear placement, and then part of that is also because of field conditions and soil type. So
I can still see some cobs in here. So we're on continuous corn. How much, from what you do, how much do you try to go corn each year?
So I do not do very much corn on corn. We had some acreage changes, and we're just trying to get back to our 50-50 rotation. So very little.
Well, every question I ask means you're not rolling. So that's enough. Thank you very much, and best of luck rest of the spring.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Ryan Zimmerman, appreciate the opportunity to ride with him late yesterday afternoon, where you could certainly see in that area. So he was north of 136, east of 155, which connects Lincoln and Morton. And he had quite a few tractors going in and around that area. In some cases, you saw tillage and planting taking place in the same field. Just try to hit it as hard as possible. As of Sunday, according to Ag Statistics in Illinois, 24% of the corn crop was planted, which was better than 11 the week before. And corn emerged 11%. Corn planted at 24%, that's behind the 5-year average of 89. Soybeans, only 9% of the state's crop has been planted. So you think about this, it's a fairly even split, at least it was projected to be in Illinois. Let's say 11 million acres. Well, let's say 10. Just keep the numbers sort of even. 10's low, but let's just say 10. If you're 24% planted with corn on 10 million, that means you still have more than 7.5 million acres to plant. And if you're only at 9 on 10 million acres of soybeans, that means you have 9 million acres to plant. So in that case, you're still looking at more than 16 million acres of crop ground that needs to be planted with just 10 days to go in the month of May. So those are not very optimistic kind of numbers. Nationwide, corn planting 49% completes behind the 5-year average of 80. And for soybeans, 19% planted behind the 5-year average of 47. And even the 5-year average in soybeans doesn't quite account for how much earlier folks have been trying to get in fields in recent years. Well, what lies ahead? We'll talk weather with Dan Hicks at Freeze Notice Weather in just a moment on RFD Today. Let's check livestock markets on the RFD Radio Network. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Illinois direct hog market steady, 52 to 58 yesterday. Sow market was down $1 to $2. Especially on the bottom end, lightweights 48 to 56, heavyweights 54 to 63. Light boars, the top of 37, was $5 higher than a week ago. Mexican government published an official notice that Mexico has removed its retaliatory duties on U.S. pork. Canada's Department of Finance announced that they will immediately eliminate the 10% tariff that Canada imposed on prepared beef items from the United States. U.S. Meat Export Federation President and CEO Dan Hallstrom says restoring duty-free access to the Mexican and Canadian markets is a tremendous breakthrough for the U.S. red meat industry. Hopefully USMCA can now be ratified. The Los Yankee RFD Radio Network.
How do people benefit from raising livestock here in Illinois? Rich Giebert, Illinois farmer, president of the Illinois Farm Bureau.
Well, growing up on a livestock farm was always interesting, and I enjoy it more today than I did back then. But it did give me the opportunity to have a good work ethic, learn to get up in the morning. And you know, that was difficult during my senior days at high school and college days. I had a tendency not to go to bed at a respectable hour. But no, it was always enjoyable on the farm and getting up before daybreak and milking the cows and getting the chores done and then go about the rest of the day's business.
Illinois Farm Bureau, along with beef, corn, milk, pork, and soybean associations, make up the Livestock Development Group, supporting the Illinois livestock sector. For more information, check out illinoislivestock.org.
Welcome back to RFD today on a Tuesday. I'm DeLoss Yankee. Freeze notice meteorologist Dan Hicks joins us over the phone. Dan, how are you, sir?
Just fine. Good morning, DeLoss.
Well, so far in recent weather reports, tornado at Tulsa International Airport, hail the size of the palm of a guy's hand in Texas, 5.5 inches of snow at my cousin's place in southeast Kansas, and a foot of snow between Denver and Colorado Springs. And I assume a lot of that is just headed this way.
Well, certainly the storm that's produced that weather is headed toward Illinois. We had a first round of rain move through the state last night and early today. A lot of that has moved on to the east right now. Not a lot of heavy rainfall, but I did see a few spots picking up a half inch to an inch of rain overnight, and it's just kind of the beginning of this weather system. The system has been real slow to move so far, and as a result, of course, we've had flooding rains, and as you mentioned, in parts of Kansas, Oklahoma, and Missouri. We've had severe weather, widespread severe weather in the southern plains, and some snow in the western plains, even in parts of western Nebraska, western South Dakota. The system does start to lift out to the northeast more quickly over the next 24 to 48 hours. There'll be another round of rain and thunderstorms across Illinois, especially later today through tonight, and then a brief dry period after that. But certainly really no long dry spells to be seen here in the near future. It's been that way quite a bit this spring, and it just looks like it's going to stay that way for the upcoming future.
The reports from National Weather Service, St. Louis and in Lincoln, both have been warning about some severity today. So is that something to keep an eye on?
I think that late this afternoon and tonight, as some of that warmer air lifts a little further northeast, that would be the potential, I think, especially in the central and southern part of the state. As we move, especially into the evening hours, that may be the greatest risk for some strong thunderstorms. A little bit too cool farther north, but certainly another half inch to inch and a half of rain potential across Illinois through tonight, keeping things extremely wet after the rains last night. A little bit of a break after this, but it does look like more rain is going to return late this week and off and on through the holiday weekend. The late week rains, probably not quite as much as we're getting right now, but any amount on top of the wet ground is really unwanted in any parts of the Midwest right now.
Yeah, some folks aren't even to 50 at the time we're doing this, may not hit 60 today, but then tomorrow, mid-80s, maybe, will we hit a 90 in any part of the state, do you think?
Probably not tomorrow. I think there certainly could be some 80s, especially in the southern part of the state. But right now we've got a warm front that's south of Illinois, and that warm front moves northward with this system and puts us back into the warmer air tomorrow through the end of the week. So certainly more typical temperatures of late May coming up tomorrow through Friday. And again, as you mentioned, some 80s certainly, but in the southern part of the state. I doubt if it'll hit 90 degrees with this warm up, but certainly much better than we're seeing right now with the clouds and rain today. It will be a cool day across quite a bit of the Midwest.
Well, I had had been some tweets, some weathermen were talking about some outrageous amounts of rain coming in some parts like Oklahoma, for example. I saw parts of I-40 just completely underwater. We were way past the topic of, hey, what about a late Easter? I mean, this is just continuing on, and hopefully, I mean, can we get any relief headed toward June, do you think?
Well, I think eventually the pattern is going to turn around and go to a somewhat drier pattern, but there's just no clear indication of exactly when that will occur. We've got this high pressure aloft in the southeastern part of the country, and we've got troughing aloft in the western part of the country, and that general weather pattern looks like it's going to hold, with some variation, probably right into the 11 to 15 day time frame. So as long as that's the pattern, it's not going to dry out for any lengthy period of time. So I'd have to say that, certainly as the foreseeable future, it looks like a fairly active weather pattern. We'll have some dry days, but, we're to the point now where we've seen here in the past 1 to 2 weeks where, 1, 2, 3 dry days just isn't enough to allow field work to really get going. And, some of that, severe delays in field work reflected in yesterday's numbers where, especially, Illinois, Wisconsin on eastward, the corn and bean planting is, way behind the 5-year average and really very low numbers for this late in May in some of those states.
Thing is, let's say Peoria since March 1 is 3 inches more than average, 12 1/3 inches. But, part of the problem is May isn't necessarily a dry month to begin with. So to be above average in May really shows you how wet we've been, at least in these last couple of weeks.
Well, that's true. I think we were talking yesterday that actually that May-June period in a lot of the main corn and bean growing areas is about the wettest period of the year because when you get that transition from the cool to the warm season, we get frequent thunderstorms. Rainfall amounts tend to drop off a little bit as you get into the heart of the summer. But this is the time of year when you typically get some of your greatest rainfall amounts. And, we went into spring with soil moisture well above normal across the Midwest, and it's just been, adding up from rain to rain, keeping the soils extremely wet, keeping some flooding going on. And again, unfortunately, I just don't see a great deal of improvement here over the next 1 to 2 weeks. And, some of these planting numbers really don't stand a chance of even catching up close to normal.
All right. Well, on that note, got to let you go, Dan. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you soon.
You're welcome, DeLoss.
Dan